In the meantime, the president pushing back against congressional Democrats who have been requesting his tax returns.
Hey, I'm under audit, but that's up to whoever it is. From what I understand, the law is 100% on my side.
100% on his side. He also signaled that maybe the Justice Department could get involved. We have a former Justice Department attorney with us now, John Yoo. Can you explain a little bit? We've been talking about this since the campaign, but now that the president is in office and this request has come in from House Ways and Means, what should happen next?
This is a very interesting case, maybe unprecedented. This is not the usual provision where Congress, say, the House Judiciary Committee wants to subpoena the Justice Department and Barr for the Mueller report. This is actually a provision of the law that only specifically applies for the tax writing committees of Congress, the House Ways and Means, Senate Finance, to ask for the tax information for any individual tax payer. And it has to do with making sure, I believe, that the IRS isn't cutting anybody any special deals if there's no graft or corruption. As far as I know, it's never been used to ask for the tax returns of a sitting president.
So how would you handle it if you're the president's lawyers? What would your comeback be?
Well, first, I would say you don't want to break this norm of using this important law, which was passed back in the Harding administration after the Teapot Dome scandal, to turn into a weapon of partisan politics. Because suppose the Senate decides to ask for Hillary Clinton's tax returns or the Clinton Foundation's tax returns, this could really escalate into a terrible use of the tax power to harass people, which is what we were supposed to get away from after Watergate.
What about, so you'd use precedent, but what about if they come back and say, well, you know what, I get it, but at the same time, the law's the law, and we do have the right to ask for this. Is there a way to come back from that?
It's a very good question. It doesn't look like the usual protections for presidential secrecy apply, because I think these are about his tax returns when he was a private citizen. So it's hard for him to say, well, I have executive privilege or the privilege for law enforcement discussions. He might go to court and say this is some kind of invasion of his privacy, but I actually think it looks like the law is mostly on the side of Congress on this one.
We're probably going to see him. But the political question is a different question. You could see there could be nothing there, and then it blows up in the Democrats' face in many ways, because they've been saying for years we've got to see these tax returns. But your prediction is we see them.
Well, it could take years, though. If the president wants to fight it, he could go to court and try to fight it, but I think Congress would win.
John, let me get you on one other thing while you're here. We were talking about the border and how you're going to fund things and the emergency declaration and everything else. There are now 20 states who filed a motion today to try to block the president from diverting funds for border walls. You get the idea of what he's running into in terms of roadblocks with all of this. So what do you know about this particular case and the legalities here?
That one I've studied a fair amount. I teach that issue at Berkeley. It looks to me like the president ultimately will win that lawsuit. But all these states have to do is find some trial judge somewhere to enjoin the transfer, and then it's going to get accelerated and get up to the Supreme Court pretty quickly. I think the president has precedent on his side, as it were.
He talks about the Ninth Circuit all the time, so that's your point, is that they'll go there, but then in the Supreme Court, he's got the law on his side.
Yeah, if you remember, this is the same thing would happen with the so-called travel ban. He lost in all the lower courts, but in the end, the Supreme Court upheld him because it was consistent with past presidential practice, and I think this border declaration will be upheld by the Supreme Court, too.
All right, John, good to talk to you. John Yoo with us today.